This morning, I think we'll talk about the leader using his influence.
Correct.
In leading the people in a time of crisis.
Correct.
Or
yes.
through a crisis to their desired goal.
Yes.
And when you look at the leadership in this country, the president and the governors that are coming in, I don't know why, but in Africa, I think every new regime must inherit trouble.
True.
Because the previous regime must make sure things are not working. Maybe they overborrow.
Yes.
Maybe they overcommit themselves.
Correct.
And so you find almost every new regime comes and begins to struggle, not only in Kenya, but across Africa.
Yes.
So the leader must come into office with a clear sense of direction.
Correct. Yes.
But also being strong to lead people through the crisis. Like right now, we are in the crisis of debt.
Yes.
We are in the crisis of high cost of living.
Correct. Yes.
And the leader, the president, the cabinet,
yes,
and all the governors in the 47 counties must lead the country and
yes,
the people through this crisis.
Correct.
How should a leader use his influence? Because I believe leadership is influence.
True. Actually,
right?
it's actually the fundamental thing.
Okay.
Because one, as you started by saying, if you are to lead and you are called a leader, then you must be leading someone.
Okay.
And for people to accept your leadership, then what it means is that you are able to touch their emotions.
Okay.
You are able to communicate to them, and they are able to see that you are taking us somewhere.
Yeah.
So, especially as you have started by saying, during the crisis is where we see the true leadership.
Okay.
Because any other time, you can just lead and things are flowing. But during the crisis, it is actually you understanding what leadership is. Yeah. And you have said one of the things is to use the influence. Right now, as we speak, like now in our country, Kenya, there are quite a number of issues which are happening. Some of them are historical. Others are actually happening at this particular time. And why they happen, the crisis actually, one of the things that as a leader you must know is that crisis will be there. Yeah. And therefore, if you are to lead through the crisis, one of the biggest things that you need to do is actually to have prepared for it. Okay. As you are getting into leadership, you must actually have realized that things will not always be the way we want them to be. Yeah. And therefore, how do we move? You must realize you must get opposition in terms of your leadership. Yeah. There are some people who will like you. There are some people who will hate you. Yeah. And I think that is the scenario that we have in Kenya right now. Right now, yeah. There are some people who are feeling that I don't love this government. However much it does, whether it is doing a good thing or a bad thing, everybody is actually going to look for something which is negative and now start building on a negative thought. Yeah. And try now to see how they can make the government not work. So in that state, one of the things that I believe in you are going to be effective in terms of leadership, you must try in one way to affect, as you said, the heart and what people really feel about you. Because you cannot lead people who are not trusting your leadership. Yeah. So the first thing is actually to build that confidence, to build that trust, so that you can be able to move along with every other person. When I look at Kenya right now, we have not moved forward. Yeah. We are still on the politicking mode, which is also a very bad thing. And that is where now you are finding even the leaders in the government, let's say, they are finding it quite a bit difficult for them to maneuver through the crisis. But one of the things they must do is that they must realize this is a situation. It is always likely it is going to happen. So how well do we prepare for it? And therefore, even when you hear a lot of politicking, you must not be cowed down. And that's what you said. You must be steadfast. You must be strong. And you must say, I have a vision for this country. And I must realize this vision. Because if you don't have a vision for the country, that's where you find a problem, that a leader will actually get tired in the crisis. But if you have a vision for the country, or if you have the vision for where you are leading, then what will happen even when there is a crisis? You look at the whole thing and say, I think there is somewhere I'm going.
Okay.
People will only just speak, but you must continue persistently following your vision, following your dream to see that it happens.
Okay.
So that are some of the characteristics that you require during the crisis. But if you cow down, then you'll not be able to move forward.
Especially the situation in Kenya is very, very, very tricky.
True.
Even for every leader.
Yes,
but there's what the leader is expected to do.
Correct.
And I'm seeing like our leaders are wanting to explain themselves rather than move their country forward.
True.
Because it's like they want everybody to understand what they are doing. Is that really a good thing? Because I really don't like when it appears like the president is listening too much to everybody making noise out there, or and then they must come and explain what they are doing. Look at like the strategy of government to government purchase of oil, and they had to come and talk about it. Should they have come out and talked about it, or they should have kept quiet and just executed, because they are there as leaders and they must take the people forward.
You see, during the crisis, the more information you give to people, the worse it becomes. As we started by saying, there are so many people who are critics, and there are people who are always going to see a negative thing in everything that you do. And that's why it is very important for you to know which information do I share with the people and which information do I withhold. Because the more you give, the more opposition comes in. And therefore it is also good sometimes to sieve and see exactly this is what is going. Because let me say, for example, you see like Wajiko. Wajiko doesn't really care about all those stories, all those talks that we are talking about, or what they want to hear. And that's why you can see like the opposition right now, they are like winning in one way or another. It's because they want to hear about, not to hear. Actually, they want to see the cost of living is coming down. So as long as you are doing something, it doesn't matter how much you explain, as long as it is trickling down to the people. People will be saying, at least we can feel. Like you see, like Kibaki's time. There are several things that he did, and he did not explain. In fact, one of the things, and I think he was a very good leader. I am telling you, one of the things during Kibaki's time, you see the way you find the headline in news is actually the presidents who are talking. Kibaki, people actually used to ask, where is he?
And he's in office. He
is in office. But he used actually to do something, even pushing for something, and people start feeling it, like education. I think that is the time that we realized that education became something whereby at least people were able to feel the free primary education. So he was not talking much, but he was doing something which was great. And that's now when people even speak about him, they speak about him in such a great way, because he never bothered so much about talks. You remember, I remember I was in the university during his time. There is one night I heard him in the news. I was driving going home, and I heard him, and he has said he has actually the whole cabinet, it was sent packing. You remember, it was sent packing. Why? It is because they were not moving with him, and it was during a crisis time. They were not moving with him, so he decided, I'm not going to waste time with these people who are not going with my vision. And that's why you realized even people who are actually, the whole cabinet actually went home. It went home, and from that particular time he sat, even during the time of choosing the cabinet, he sat alone. And people are actually looking and asking, what is happening with this man? But he realized at that particular time he doesn't need to talk too much, but he wants to act because people are demanding action. Because
I think several things have happened. There was a promise of oil It has not yet come to pass.
Correct.
There was a gas issue, the Taifa gas.
Yes.
It has not yet affected the market.
Correct. Yes.
They talked about maize, I don't know from where, from like 3 places.
True.
And finally, no maize came. And there are these jobs that are being promised, I don't know where, and the other place.
Germany,
why do we
Japan.
have to talk before even
actualizing
it?
That is
should
the
we
challenge.
really come to the public to explain all this?
That's why we are saying I think they are speaking too much, especially now in our political leadership. Now there is a lot of talk, and I think they really need to tone down on the talks, and actually people now be seeing something which is happening. Because let me say, as you are saying, when you promise people, like it was a very bad thing, especially for the gas.
Yes.
When like the president is being asked, when are we going to see the reduction that you talked about?
Yes.
And he started now explaining to the Kenyans that it has to go through the parliament and all that. Those are the things he needed to have done long time ago. And that's why we are saying, in crisis, prepare in advance.
Yeah.
So that at least before you talk, let people ask, hiya, what is happening? Gas has come down.
Yeah.
So that particular time you can go and say, this is exactly what we have done for you to be in this kind of a state.
Yeah.
That's why you can see the cost of living is coming down. But every other time that you say something, and you know that, as we said, you have people who are critics. When you keep on sharing information to them, what they will do, they will actually delay your progress. They will delay your vision. Because they will keep on fighting even when you have good ideas.
All right. So now to end up on that, now we are in a crisis, definitely.
Yes, correct, yes.
Of course, we are not alone, and it is good for Kenyans to know that.
Yes.
We are not alone, because like I think last week I was in Uganda, and the driver was using a Prado.
Yes.
And we went somewhere, we took some diesel, and I think it was costing like around 5,000 Uganda shillings per liter.
Yes.
If you turn 5,000 Uganda shillings to Kenya shillings, because the rate now is at 25, of course they are quoting officially 27, but on the ground it is 20.
But it is going to be greater and bigger than the way it is.
Yeah.
Actually, right now we are actually in good times, and I'm not prophesying doom, but I am only trying to tell Kenyan to come to terms, fasten their belts, and they realize for some few years things are not just going to be very good.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying this, and that is what Mozambique actually got to a point, and they realized that this one is actually going to happen, and therefore they prepared their people. There is a lot of talk that goes, and now I can tell you, you see, there are promises that you can give which will not materialize. You see right now, like the Kenyan government, it is actually struggling. You find what they are trying to do in terms of finance bill 2023. This finance bill is actually because they are in crisis. They are not really, they don't know exactly what to do. But you know what they are doing? They are doing long things in very many ways. And those are discussions that we said we can actually look at it. But you find during the crisis, it is not a time for you to overtax even your people. Right now, what is happening, because of people not accepting where they are, they are actually looking at ways of just bringing in money without caring what happens to the people that you are trying to tax. And therefore, one of the things that they really need to tell Kenyans, if they are actually going to say, they'll tell Kenyan, look, where we are, we need everybody to be together with us. This is a crisis we are in, but we are working on it. We are moving together, and it needs you, it needs me, it needs everybody for us to move forward. So we must own where we are as Kenyan. If we don't own, we will keep on talking about stories, and things will be hitting us. As you are saying, fuel cost, can I tell you, we have not seen the highest of the fuel cost. In this country, fuel cost is going to be going a little bit higher than the way it is.
And why?
Why it will go is because, one, the effects of fuel is not Kenyan effect.
Okay.
It is a global effect. And that's why, and I am happy you have said, you went to Uganda, they are having the same crisis of fuel, just like the way we have in Kenya. In fact, we have converted the currency, Uganda to Kenya shillings. They are a little bit higher than Kenyan. So that tells you it is not actually something that is a Kenyan thing. It is actually a global thing.
All right.
So when you find the price, the cost of the barrel and all that for oil and all that is high, there is very little that the country will be able to do. Now the worst thing that is happening is because right now, like the finance bill, and you know, like the government is ready to pass that bill anytime from now. When it passes that bill, automatically fuel goes from 8% the tax to 16%. So obviously when it goes that, what do you expect is that the fuel cost is going to go higher. They are saying they have reduced some few things like the railway development fund. But it is a smaller portion what have been reduced as opposed to the percentage they are doing in VAT. And that's why I'm saying Kenyans, right now, let's not get into politicking mood. Because the problem with us as Kenyan is that we love politics. And we'll always speak things without analyzing where we are. But I would urge all the Kenyans, they come to terms and realize we are in crisis. We need one another to move out of this crisis.
So we must all accept that we are in a crisis.
Yeah, sure.
And citizens together with the people that are leading them.
True.
But at the same time, a leader always goes ahead of the people.
Correct.
And he shows the way.
True.
Don't you think the government needs to do something to show that they are leading? Because now, if we are trying to mitigate the economic crisis, should we continue in wastage? And should we cut on some costs? We apply some austerity measures.
True.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the word.
Yeah.
There are some measures, austerity measures we need to apply at this particular time. Anything that is a wasteful thing in our budget, it must be removed. And that is the role of the government right now.
As a leader.
As a leader.
Yeah.
They must say, even in your family, there are sometimes you say, the children will say, we need to be eating meat every week. But it gets to a point and you tell them, look, it is not possible to eat meat every day in the week.
Yeah.
And you say we are going to cut this. We'll only be taking meat 2 times in a week.
Yeah.
Will you die? No, you won't die.
No.
In fact, there are other better things that you can eat apart from meat.
And from that you save a few coins.
You save a few coins.
Yeah.
There are several things that you say here, I have to adjust my budgets downward so that I am not going to be in debt all the time. So what the government needs to do at this time of the crisis, because our crisis is actually debt burden. So one of the things is that they need to say is that we cannot be borrowing when our budget is so high, in terms of our expenditure is so high. There are several things which are being done in the ministry right now. There are several things being done in the county level which we can say, look, the leaders,
this can wait.
This can wait. And that's what we are saying. You know, like there are some few things, Reverend, I am looking at. And you find that the government still, the leadership is not good. In the sense that there are quite a number of things they are doing. Let me tell you, give you a very good example. We moved out from Huduma Number. Huduma Number is actually a place we synced 6 billion on that project. 6 billion was spent. And there is nothing, no results that we got. Huduma Number is something that is forgotten.
6 billion?
6 billion went down. Sank. You know, now the government again is coming now, and it has started this week about digitizing our ID. You know, that's what is going to happen within some few days now. They are going now to spend again in terms of now, not Huduma Number, but they are going now to make your ID to be everything. They bring everything in your ID. Look, the question that we are asking, we were actually on Huduma Number.
I heard even one of them say that it's like it will be from childbirth.
That is the thing, actually childbirth to death.
It's your ID.
It is the ID.
Okay.
So what we are saying is, right now, it is a good thing. It is good to be digital. You are going to get the government services through that
now.
But is it now the most urgent thing at this particular time?
All right.
Those are the things we are talking about.
Okay. We are taking a short break, but you can hear that as David Kamau is putting it, we have to look up to our leaders, and our leaders must provide leadership. And we are in a crisis. We all agree, citizens and our leaders. But let the leaders lead. If it's about cutting on some of unnecessary expenses, let the leader do that first.
True.
Let the leader show the way. And we citizens will see that the government is doing something. We take a short break. We are coming back. Don't go very far.
One would ask, who is God of the Bible? Where did the world come from? Is man basically good? What is the hope of man after this life? Is Jesus God? What does the Bible really say about Christianity? How did God come to exist? Is the Bible really the Word of God? This and many other questions on religion need answers. Join teachers of the Word and theologians every Saturday from 8:30 a.m. on the program Bible Theology Show, where all your questions will be answered only on EBN TV.
With great love and joy, I specially welcome you to worship with us at Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu. This is a true family church, a true spiritual home. Redeemed Gospel Church Buruburu is home to exuberant prayers, deep and true worship. A house of prayer that will leave you feeling refreshed. Our first service starts at 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and our second service starts at 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have our midweek service from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and every Friday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. we have our night of glory. This is the church you have been looking for. This is the place for your spiritual growth and maturity. See you this Sunday and karibu sana.
And welcome back. I am glad that you are watching. This is a Leadership Challenge show here on EBN TV, talking about leadership, and the leader using is influence, and that was our conversation in the first segment of this program. But David Kamau, we also must feel as citizens that the people we have elected and the people we have given them the responsibility to lead us are people that understand the challenges that we have. Because if a leader is leading and he does not understand the challenges, do you think that he can really rescue the country or lead us in the best way? How much, when you look at the leadership that we have, and generally speaking, how important is it for a leader to understand the challenges that the people are facing?
Well, it is very important that they understand, because you cannot be shooting at the dark. It is just like you are just shooting like this. There is nothing that you are shooting. So if a leader does not understand exactly what is happening, he cannot lead anyone. Because they really need to appreciate and to get to know this is exactly what is happening, because how do they get solutions on something they don't understand? And therefore, if a leader is not understanding, what you realize is that even the people that he is leading, they will actually be lost. And I think that's where you are finding some of the leaders are losing the flocks or the people they are leading, because at the end of the day they are not understanding anything about what is happening. They are still in the same song, you know, the same tune with the people that they are leading. So let's say, for example, that's why the Bible talks about if you are bride, how do bride people lead the other bride people? It can't be. If, for example, you are bride, you need someone who has sight to lead you, and that sight is actually understanding exactly what is it that you need to do to get people out of the problem that they are in. And therefore it is very important that the leaders actually get to understand first, because at the end of the day, all said and done, everything will actually rise or fall on leadership. It is actually the leader. If you lead the people well, people are going to get out of crisis. Right now you find there are some leaders who are still continuing to dig when you have fallen on a pit,
and you are still digging.
What are you doing? And that's why a leader who does not understand, they are digging. Instead of getting out of the pit, they are continuing to dig, which is a very bad thing. During the crisis, when you find yourself that bottom in a pit, what you need to do is actually to look at the means. How do I actually, in fact, what you need is actually for people to put the soil back so that you can start coming up. But it is not digging. Therefore, that's the challenge we are saying.
So stop the digging.
Stop the digging and start now looking for the ways. How do I get out of this pit? And that is actually what we are saying. A leader needs to realize that I cannot continue digging again. I am in crisis. And that's why we need leaders, especially. And when we talk about leaders, we are not talking about Kenya Kwanza or anybody in the government. We are talking about everybody. Because, and that's what we say the other time. When you go to parliament, you don't get the members of parliament for Kenya Kwanza. You get the members of parliament for the whole country. Whether it is Azimio, whether it is Kenya Kwanza. So what we are saying, during the crisis, all the leaders, they must realize we cannot continue digging. And when you find leaders who do not understand, instead of trying to see how can we make this country to go up, they are continuing to sink it even deeper, which is a very bad thing about poor leadership.
One of the biggest problems of this country is the national debt. And do you think like our leaders really understand where this places us as a nation? Whether they understand the real implication of the problem of the national debt?
Actually, I would say yes and no.
Yes and no.
There are some leaders who understand, but still they are critics. And it is a very bad position. They understand where we are, but they want still to play games. And that's why we are saying in Kenya right now, it is not a time for any leader to play games. Because Kenya is bigger than our own self-ambitions. And therefore we must get to a point and we say, let Kenya be first in terms of how we are going to go together. And not our parties, not our positions. So there are some who know, but they are continuing to do the very bad thing that we do.
To dig.
And
they are in a pit.
And they know they are in the pit. And they are doing it. They don't care whether Kenya corrupts or it doesn't corrupt. They don't care. Actually, for them is our positions, which is a very bad thing. And that is not leadership. There are also others literally leveraged. They don't understand where we are. They are actually, and you know why I'm saying that they don't understand. You remember there is a time Kenyans used to say, even the member of parliament, they used to say, as long as our leader has read the document, it is good to go. We don't need to lead it. And because of that ignorance, there are so many people who have not gone deep in terms of understanding where Kenya is. Can I give you an example? Because you talked about the cost of debts. Right now, leveraged in this budget, which is going to be led on 15th June, that budget, it is a 3 trillion budget.
They said the president had said that they have reduced the national budget.
Yes, they have reduced. In fact, you know what they have done is actually in terms of the level of borrowing, they have reduced it from like almost $1 trillion to around 662 billion.
Okay.
So what they will do, they have actually increased in terms of the borrowing. What they will do is 81% is going to be local borrowing as opposed to external. So around 19% is what out of that 662 is what is going to be funded from outside. So what they have done is that they have reduced. We started by saying there are some costs which are not necessary.
Yeah.
So they have cut a bit of those costs. But the challenge that we have leveraged is this. Do you know out of that budget that is going to be led in June, out of that budget, 1.4 trillion 1.4 trillion, which is almost actually more, almost the what Kenya revenue is correcting today, is going straight away to go to paying debts. 1.4 trillion. In the other financial year, after this, 1.7 trillion will go to debts.
They are going increasing.
Yes, it is increasing from 1.4. Yes, correct. The maturity is continuing. Yes, and after that you have the Eurobonds and all those which you are going to pay. So what we are saying is, what you are collecting, it is not coming to help the Kenyan people. It is coming to debts. Some of the debts that were incurred, and we don't see their productivity right now.
Yeah.
But you must pay them because they were committed at one particular time.
Yeah.
So what we are saying is the challenge we have, and that's why I was saying to Kenyans that we are actually in a crisis and we must accept.
Yeah.
When almost everything you are collecting from Kenya revenue is going to pay debts, what is it that you are going to do to pay for what we call recurrent expenditures?
Okay.
Because for you to run the government, their presidents, they must be paid. Their ministers, they must be paid. Their civil servants, they must be paid.
Yeah.
So there is a point where you realized in January, February, there was a delay in terms of their payment. And what happened is, because the government was trying to balance paying debts and paying the recurrent debts.
Yeah.
So what will happen after some time is that the government has no choice. It has to pay its workers.
Okay.
Because there is no way a government is going to operate efficiently without paying its workers. So what does that tell you? And there is a rating, by the way, which has been done. You will see it in the Google.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
You see the mood rating. Right now, you have seen like the traffic lights.
Yeah.
The traffic lights have how many?
3 lights.
They have 3. There is green, which is a safety zone.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. There is amber, which is actually telling you you are going to a dangerous point if you drive. Yes, warning you.
Yeah.
And there is red, which is telling you now, stop. Don't move.
Okay.
And don't do anything. That mood rating, for some time, it has been on B2. If you look at it, it tells you there is a B2 and all that. But right now, as we speak, it has been done. And it is showing that we are on B3. B3 is actually on amber. You see, some few degrees before we are headed to the red.
To the red.
Do you know what happens when the country gets to the red? It is what happened to Sri Lanka.
So the rating, for us to be given credit, has gone down.
It has gone down.
Fallen.
It has gone down, and we are on what we call very high risk right now. The high risk is because we are going definitely to experience some problems. We may end up even defaulting some of these loans. It is a bad situation, and that's why we are saying when we see leaders just talking carelessly, it is because some of them are not understanding where we are.
Okay.
You see what happened to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, they went to the lead, and when they went to the lead, and what happens when you go to the lead is that sometimes, and you know what, some of the people who are giving us funding, you know why they were doing what they were doing? They have already seen the trend in many African countries and other countries. And they have been able to secure the properties for a country. Like now as we speak in Sri Lanka, do you know the port was taken for 99 years?
The port?
The port, yes. You are operating, but there is no money that is coming to your economy. It is actually someone's property right now. And that is the very thing. And that's why you realize there is a time that the president was being asked, what is it that you gave us collateral?
For SGR.
For SGR. And there were so many stories. The president said, the former, he said, I'm going to give the details. Were the details given out? So those are the things sometimes you find like the KPA has been given as a collateral. So what happens when you start defaulting? And you know, the worst thing is that like now, China is not they are not the people who gave Kenya the debt, the money, the loan. It was actually given by a bank, like the way we have Equity Bank here in Kenya.
Oh, it was not government to government.
No, it is Exim Bank.
It's a commercial bank.
It's Exim Bank in China. So this bank does not care about what we are doing in Kenya. You default, what do? They go to the collateral. So what you do is that you lose your property for several years. Today, even the lands that we are actually buying, well, if you look at the lands, they say that you have a lease for how many years? 99 years. 99. So they are taking your port for 99 years. So that port belongs to them. And these are the crises we are saying, Leverett. We are in a crisis. So if we don't come together as Kenyan people and we stop digging, what will happen is that the property will go. Who will lose? You may not lose for you because you have money right now, but what about your children?
Wow.
And these are the issues that leaders now need to see.
They need to understand. This is a problem.
Yes.
And but by their also understanding, by their understanding, should also be able to apply a few things that can help in mitigating the challenge. Because they understand it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why we are saying, right now, I can tell you, do you know there is something that we call the supply side economy and the demand side economy?
Yeah.
What the Kenyans need to do is actually to stop now on the demand side. You know, the demand, when the demand is too high, even in terms of the cost of living goes high.
Yeah.
We need to think about the supply side economy.
Okay.
In the sense that we need to supply more to the economy than what is demanded by the economy.
Okay.
And that's why we are telling like all the leaders, instead of now disrupting the government every other time. It is very bad. Like now, yesterday I looked at something. We have by partisan talks. You find them coming to a point of collapsing. What are we doing? We are actually putting the country on a demand side. And therefore what we are talking about, bringing the cost of living down, is going to be unattainable. It is not going to be attained because instead of supplying the economy with what the economy needs so that things can stabilize, we are disrupting even more.
Okay.
It was a bad thing to hear the leaders, some of the leaders says that we have an option that we are going to go back to the streets to demonstrate. So what are you really doing? It is you are actually halting the economy. So what you are doing is digging deeper and making Kenya to suffer even more. And that's why I would tell Kenyans, really, let's not get involved in some of these things because it is not helping us to get out of the crisis.
Yeah. Okay. And you know, the next thing, and I think we have a few minutes to talk about it, is actually when the leader should be careful not to become part of the problem.
Yes.
And I think sometimes, and across Africa, not only here in Kenya, a lot of our leaders are part of the problem.
Yes.
And I don't know what you have to say, but I feel like something must be done so that now we make sure the leaders who are supposed to bring us to the light are not part of spreading darkness to us. And what do you think about Kenya and our leaders?
Let me say that we are in a very bad position, and I really feel bad when I see our leaders behave the way they are behaving. As you have said, a leader cannot be the one who is whining every other day. Without a leader, without giving solution, is not a leader.
Yeah.
Because most of them, and I fight these statements, and when I look at them, I feel like switching off the TV. When I fight a leader say, we need to bring down the cost of living. That is just a statement.
It's a statement.
And it is not a problem it's solving. It is actually something. It's like where you do a research and you say, this is the statement, the policy statement.
Yeah.
But the question that we need to do is actually the leaders need to change from just giving statements. We want to see the leaders, and the Kenyans should actually question their leaders. They tell them, look, it is good you have said that price of Uga must come down. Tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us, how is it going to come down? Let the leaders be put, like the leaders who are talking about, let them come on air and they tell us.
Yeah.
And they are told, before you just keep on talking about things, tell us what is it that you are going to do different that is going to cause what you are talking about.
Yeah.
And these kind of reckless things, and I think the government has to get to a point whereby it will deal with people. If, for example, your work is to disrupt the peace, because Kenyans are actually very industrious levered. In fact, if you left Kenyans to work,
yeah,
and
they will
to
work.
do their own things, Kenyans, by the way, they can get themselves out of the hole. And that's why you started by saying the problem is not Kenyan people. The problem is our leaders.
Yeah.
They are the problem makers. They are the problem in the whole of this crisis.
Yeah.
And therefore what they are doing is actually, instead of allowing Kenya, and that's where we need, the government needs now, because some of the people will talk, but the government need to be firm and say, look, it is in your light to do what you are doing. But if, for example, and that's what the Constitution says, if your lights are infringing my lights, then that is not something we can discuss about.
Yeah.
Because you have the light, as well I have the light as a Kenyan.
Yeah.
So when you find like a Mama Bogas, she is actually having her kiosk over there, and people come crowding there, and they come and they destroy what she has been doing, then that one is something that the government should not allow. If people are not going to be solution to bring solutions, then the government has the instrument in need to deal with these people and tell them, because let me say, like the demonstration, we are not saying people should not demonstrate leverage. It is anchored in our constitution.
But the fact that it is in the constitution does not just give you the leeway just to begin making noise anytime you feel like.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is the thing. You know what they need to do?
It should be for a reason that you are picketing.
You know what they need to be told?
Yeah.
Avoid our roads, because Kenyans are driving going to work.
Yeah.
Say you are going to demonstrate. Go to Uhuru Park. Lock yourself there. Say whatever you want to say.
Avoid the roads.
Avoid coming to my businesses. Avoid stoning my vehicles.
Yeah.
All those kind of things. You go. Like now, look at South Africa. See, they were demonstrating another day.
No single vehicle was smashed.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, for them, it is, they say, here is where we will. And that is the only place they will be. And it is a place where you are not affecting the business for anyone. It is not where you are stoning things. But this kind of a demonstration in Kenya is actually demonic, I would say.
And do you think really, because we are talking about the leaders avoiding to be part of the problem, do you think our leaders can really avoid being part of the problem unless they begin to abide by the law?
That's why we are saying, it is actually now the government to, because
the law should be for all of us.
Yes, it is whereby the government needs to be a little bit strong in terms of interpreting what is happening. In the sense that, for example, if I stay at home because of the fear that when I go out here,
my car will be stoned,
or maybe I will not get a matatu to take me home. then that is a state that we are saying the government needs to get to a point and say, we are not going to put this country in tension any longer. You do whatever you want to do, but if any of our citizens is disrupted in terms of their operations, we will deal with you the way we are supposed to.
So the law should be followed,
true.
both by the opposition and also the government officials themselves.
Yes,
they must follow the law to help us out of this crisis we are in. Let everybody follow the law.
True.
Isn't it?
That is
and you know, I like we have a country here called Rwanda, and I think Kenyans, as much as we have a big economy, bigger than theirs, but I think that country, there is rule of law.
True.
There's rule of law.
That's the thing.
Because, you know, I drove through their country because I was going to Uganda, and I flew through their airport, the Kigali airport, to reach Uganda. And we were talking with a taxi driver as he drove me towards Uganda. And this man told me, you know, they don't have very good Swahili, but we were speaking in Swahili because he can understand it better than English. Aniambia, hapa Rwanda hakuna mchezo. Ukicheza utafungiwa. You go to it doesn't matter who you are.
True.
Haijalishi. Ananiambia kuna waziri mmoja amefutwa kazi kwa sababu ya kwenda kwa shule na kulazimisha principal wa shule achukue mtoto wake.
Look at that.
Amefutwa kazi kabisa. Ako nyumbani saa hii. Ananiambia hapa Rwanda hakuna kucheza. Uwezi kucheza. So really I think we are in problem, but I think it will also be alleviated. We will alleviate this situation by following the law.
Actually, you have said a very good point. And that is why we are saying, Reverend, everybody in Kenya has the rights. And the law is actually for everyone. What you are fighting in Rwanda is actually a country that was in bigger crisis than in Kenya.
Than us.
Right now, everybody is going to Rwanda to learn.
Yes.
And look at where they were, and we are going there. If it goes to cleanliness, it is the people. I heard you say about the way they are farming. And that's why we are saying even Kenyans can get out of this problem if we stopped just creating problems. If, for example, you are saying the way they are planting beans, and these beans, you can even harvest from one stem. You can harvest almost a kg of beans. From one. And it is actually, and we have even bigger lads in Kenya than what is in Rwanda. But look at the things that they are doing, and look at the way the government is serious. Do you know, by the way, Kagame, the President Kagame, he will go and ask a question. You are the MP for this region. And he asks you, why is it that there is no solution on this issue? And if you don't have answers, what will happen? Action will be taken on you. I think what is happening in Kenya, I think we are just, comfortable.
And you know, with this kind of laxity when it comes to obeying the law, it is the one that fails an official in an office. That because money has been put at their disposal, they can stash some away. Because they fear nothing. And I don't know why, but I think the president must begin now to tighten the noose so that now nobody can still break the law and get away with it right from his government. And if everybody now begins, if the government and the officials, the civil servants learn to follow the law, I believe everybody in Kenya will learn from them.
True. What we need is actually, we need now action. I think we have been on talks for a very long time. It has to get to a point whereby everybody is going to be accountable, and they get to know, if I don't do the right thing, it doesn't matter who I am.
I will go to jail.
I will go to jail.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, what will happen is that some few Kenyans will just throw stones for some few days.
Yeah.
But a lesson will have been learned.
Yeah.
And it is very bad for us to get there. So if it is our top leaders, let them stop being careless.
Yeah.
Because some of them are being careless with the country Kenya.
Yeah.
And this cannot be allowed. And that's what I am saying. For the government, it has to get to a point whereby, you know, it was not easy for President Kagame to get where he is.
Yeah, of course.
Whereby everybody is actually following the law. It is actually a point where it is going to be. Yes,
Everybody
it is.
does
Yes.
It doesn't matter who you are.
True,
whether
true.
you are cabinet. And
Correct.
I was told even there are not these many bodyguards that we are attaching to people.
No, it is
There is
only.
only one police officer for any important person. And there are no vehicles leading you anyway.
Those are the waste that we are talking about in this country.
Yeah.
I think, do you know, by the way, and it is a very bad thing.
We still have a cabinet minister having more than 15 guards.
Do you know,
And all this is that is cost.
we are joking in this country.
Guarding one man.
That's why we are saying we are joking. The cost which do you know Kenya? Like another day there was something I saw in the article.
Yeah.
And it was talking about a meeting. I don't know where the presidents they had gone.
Yeah.
There was actually a meeting out of this country. I think it was in either America or Europe.
Yeah.
You know, the Kenyan delegation was more than even the most developed country. We are sending more people into those meetings than what even the developed country are sending. They are actually managing their expenditure, but Kenya, we are talking about we have issues, but when other people are sending like 50 people, we are sending 167 delegation. You look at it and you see, we really serious about where we are. Do we understand what is happening with our economy? And we can actually afford to do all these kind of things. It has to get to a point.
And I think our leaders are really, right now, our leaders are part of our problem.
I tell you.
The leaders that we have are part of our problem.
They need to wake up.
And there are two things I think we need to touch on, and then we can conclude. But people, our leaders must accept to explain to people the difference between politics and leadership.
True.
Because they have tried to rub the dividing line so that politics is leadership. And that is why you can see the scenario that we have in this country. Politics are continuing.
Yes.
And the majority of Kenyans don't know the opposition is playing politics.
True.
And they are looking for relevance for 2027. And they are taking the politics seriously, and they are going out demonstrating and destroying the economy. And really, I think, why don't we have civic education in this country? And our leaders also begin to speak to enlighten the people.
Actually, that education, as you have said, Leverett, is very important.
Yeah.
Because in our mind right now, Kenyans' mind has been poisoned. And you know, politicians, they are actually, you know, if you look at the word politic, politic is not leadership. There are several people actually who are actually our leaders right now. But do you know, they don't understand even one thing about leadership.
Yeah.
And therefore, for them to get relevant, as you are saying, what will they do? They will actually learn with a topic, making mistakes, pronouncing bad things, but they will actually be there. But you know, the Kenyans, what is happening, without training, they will not be able to realize who is actually saying something which is helping the country and who is not saying something which is helping the country.
Yeah.
And therefore, the politicians cannot be the one to drive this training.
Yeah.
We need, at least we have some organizations in this country.
And even human rights.
Yes.
They
Let, if they are going to be funded, they be funded. And also they are not going to be, they must be partisan. They are not going to support me. They are saying,
partisan.
Yes, they will say, look, we are speaking about Kenya.
Not about party or side.
Not about opposition, not about the government, but Kenyans, this is the true position. When you hear this discussion, it is politics, and it is pure politics. If we get these people get to that level whereby there is a proper structured training, whereby today, Reverend, these politicians cannot pray with your with you, because you understand exactly what is politics and what is leadership. There are several people in this country who do not, because all what they know is this is because is a politician.
This they think man, he has been speaking or he has been talking.
They think it's a good leader.
Just like people who talk, but they don't ask what are they talking about.
Yeah, so we are challenging on that civic education. It is very important. If actually, let me say, if there are things which are urgent and important for Kenya right now, that is one thing. For telling people this is the truth. And because the politicians will not be trusted so much, let other bodies get down there and tell the Kenyans this is the real thing. Separate politics with the real thing. Because until we get to a point whereby politics is not what is going to drive us, we are going to be driven by the economies of this country. We are going to be driven by the right strategies which can move this country forward. That is the only time we are going to see a difference. So let's get down and make our people understand what is the difference between politicking and good leadership.
Wow. Thank you so much, David Kamau, for coming to EBN TV and talking to us in these important matters. I think a few things that you have really spoken so well is that if you find yourself in a pit, stop digging.
Correct.
And we are telling the government, we are in a pit, stop digging. We are also telling the opposition, the former prime minister, we are in a pit.
Correct.
Stop digging. We are telling every governor, we are in a pit. Stop digging.
Correct.
So that now we begin to see how to fill up the hole and the pit with the soil, so that we can come up and save the economy of our country. And if you are as a leader, because if you are a government leader, you must go ahead. A leader goes ahead. Show us how to steer this country back to the road. Don't be a part of the problem.
Correct.
And corruption will if we are allowing squandering of government money and public resources, then we are, as leaders, we have become part of the problem.
Correct.
And a leader should not be part of the problem. We leave it there, and thank you so much, David Kamau, for being here. It's always a joy talking to you, and God bless you.
My pleasure.
And my dear viewer, we end it there. This is the Leadership Challenge Show. We'll be here again on Friday, and God bless you. Bye bye. Have a good day.
Thank you.